The Progressive Women's Movement of South Africa is hosting a virtual dialogue this afternoon under the theme Realizing Women's Rights to Land Ownership and Financially Enabled Production. The dialogue seeks to raise key issues relevant to women emancipation through mobilizing land ownership, farming, and women's associations in that sector. For more now on this virtual dialogue, we are now joined via Skype by Professor Hlengiwe Mkhize. Prof is the Deputy Minister in the Presidency responsible for women, youth, and persons with disability. A very good afternoon to you, Prof, and thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, so let's just talk about the significance of this dialogue. We are close to the end of Women's Month. How important is it for us to have these discussions as a nation?
Well, when we started the month, we agreed with civil society that it's important not only to focus about our historical victory, but also to really identify outstanding issues. And the Progressive Women's Movement of South Africa, of course, is an organization of quite a number of organizations for women. I happen to be its national convener or chairperson, whatever you want to call it. So we thought really there's one big issue which women have not given it the attention it deserves. That is gender equality, and how to make sure that the relevant department mainstream issues of women. And so we are closing the month, I must say, on a high note, because we see this aspect of women and land ownership, and of course being enabled to get into production and the whole ecosystem, including the transport and logistic, access to market. We see it as a big agenda between now and 2030. The Progressive Women's Movement of South Africa will be paying particular attention, spending a lot of time mobilize women around this issue and ensuring that they are real beneficiaries in their lifetime.
All right, so we understand, of course, Prof, that the dialogue will also take stock of the progress that's been made on women empowerment from the transition during apartheid time to where we are now in democracy. Talk to us about the strides really that have been made for women, by women in South Africa.
Well, you know, there is this organization, Association of Women in Agriculture and Land Reform, WAD. You see pockets of women who have done well, some by chance, some through opportunities that they are given. But basically, if you look at ownership patterns, women, those who really own land, the percentage is very low. Hence, we thought it's important to put that out and put it as an agenda that it's time that there's redress and it's addressed systematically and rigorously. And you see also there are challenges when it comes to accessing financing for women. We have young women who have come out of institutions of higher learning and TVET colleges with relevant qualifications. Most of them, they are sitting at home. When you talk to them and explore where could they make a contribution in a value chain, you find that they can't be assisted. So we thought in this meeting, as part of a generational dialogue, we also bring them on board and see what value can they add. But also we've got quite a number of young people who have formal education when it comes to technology. They could assist in terms of marketing, in terms of making sure that they use technology to transfer finances between the buyers and sellers. And so all those things, if we do not come up with an integrated, coordinated program, which is gender responsive, is not going to happen on its own. Even if Parliament could come up with good legislation, resolve all the issues around land distribution, I think we have to be disciplined, we have to work hard, and we have to be right at the center of decision making. So like this afternoon, we got all the key players so that there's a common understanding of what we want to achieve. And also we are hoping that post this, we'll have a working group, and some of the players that are attending, they could be part of it or refer other people, but basically to be able to engage on a continuous basis, all spheres of government, organized women's association, especially those in the farming sector, and also relevant women's funds within our financial sector, be it the private sector or state-owned entities like IDC. I know they have a women's fund. So really, we are saying today, it's up to us to stand up and make sure that we drive this process in our own terms, and we are vocal about what we think is retarding progress, if any.
Very, very interesting indeed, Prof. And really what I would like to know is, so how do you include the women from your deepest rural areas who are already working on this land? Are they part of these discussions? And what then happens post this virtual meeting? I understand that there will be a working group, but then how are you going to ensure that you realize whatever the recommendations that will be put forward and the decisions that would be taken post this virtual dialogue today?
Yeah, in terms of PWMSA structure, we have conveners at a provincial level. Their responsibility is to mobilize beyond the province at a district level, or at a regional level. So we really believe, nobody should be left behind. We should all have conversations. There are women who have been farm laborers all their lives, and they own nothing. They own nothing, and their children sometimes have to leave school so as to work for their share of whatever food they get. So we do need to have conversations. They might be at a point where they have got different needs. In their case, it might be a big issue of the security of tenure, which we need to address, to, of course, being guided by them. And so we want to leave no one behind or outside the engagement, because it's, as I said, it's a big agenda for women of South Africa. And some, they live within the tribal authorities, and they've got different dynamics. And sometimes we don't talk to them. We hear leaders talking about them. So we have invited some of them so that we hear from them as to what are challenges, how do they see the work forward, or what concrete actions should be taken so as to ensure that they dismantle those sometimes cultural belief systems and practices that have not advanced their cause towards the actual ownership.
All right, Prof, we have to leave it at that. We thank you so much for coming through. Professor Hlengiwe Mkhize is the national convener of the Progressive Women's Movement of South Africa, also the Deputy Minister responsible for women, children and persons with disability in the Presidency, talking to us about a virtual dialogue that will take place this afternoon.